30년 전 저희는 오해와 편견으로 인하여 슬픔과 아픔의 영사를 겪었습니다.
30 years ago, because of a lot of misunderstanding, many of us experienced the pain of the LA riots.
모든 오해와 편견을 풀리지 않은 채 우리들은 혐오와 인종차별 문제의 피해자로 지금까지 지내고 있습니다.
And unfortunately, because of those unresolved misunderstanding and misinformation, we are still in many ways victims of those pain.
지금 현재 스탑 아시안 블랙 라이스 마라톤을 시위들을 외치며 인종차별을 반대하는 징후 차별 문제에 대하여 많은 분들이 노력하고 있습니다.
There are so many individuals who are striving to fight against racial discrimination, whether it's through Stop Asian Hate or Black Lives Matter.
4.19 30주년을 맞이하여 우리 다 함께 한 자리에 모여서 평화를 위한 화합을 다짐하는 계기가 되었으면 좋겠습니다.
It is my hope that through the SAIGU campaign, through April 29th, that we may all gather together as family to work towards peace.
다가오는 차세에 대해 희망과 화합 그리고 모두가 함께 가는 뜻깊은 세상이 되었으면 좋겠습니다.
It is my hope that for the next generation that we could build a world full of hope as well as peace and harmony.
여기 계신 모든 분들이 앞장서서 우리 화합을 위해서 같이 나갑시다. 감사합니다.
And I ask that all of you lead the charge and help bring that to reality.
Thank you so much.
At this time, I would like to invite our council member Paul Koretz with the LA City Council member.
Thank you, Kim, and Face LA and all the organizers. I too remember where I was in the 1992 riots. I was actually a young council member in the city of West Hollywood, and we weren't actually impacted, but we saw the city around us in flames, burning. We saw people being killed. It was absolutely devastating. And we weren't sure whether to be nervous or confused. I mean, I think there were a lot of people that thought, oh, the LA riots happened in 1965 when I was a kid, and issues had been addressed and resolved, and clearly they weren't. Clearly, just below the surface, there was a lot of anger at the continuing inequality, friction between different groups, different ethnicities, different races, and I'm not sure that that completely has been dealt with today either, 30 years later. We can't wait for another 20 or 30 years till the city blows up again. We have to make sure that we address the fact that different groups aren't getting along as well as they could. Inequality still continues and has to be addressed. And we just can't wait. And an event like this, I think, is what moves us in the right direction. We shouldn't just be responding to the negative. We need to respond to the positive. The negative is we still have hate crimes against all the groups that we can think of. The Korean and AAPI community, the Black community, the Jewish community, Muslims, so many different groups, and we need to respond. And we need to respond with law enforcement, but we also need to respond with love. And we need to have an effort to make all our different groups interact and come together, understand their differences, celebrate their differences, but celebrate the fact that we are one Los Angeles together, perhaps the most diverse city in the world. And we have to continue to make that positive. So let us never have another event like this. Well, let's have an event like this, the one we're having today, not the one that we had 30 years ago. And let's all come together and make this wonderful city better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. invite our Edward Yan, who is the president of the LA County Asian Employee Association. Again, he has been a champion and a friend. So,
thank you, Caitlin. Just to get it out of the way, I was a junior in high school in 1992. Los Angeles County Asian American Employees Association has partnered with FACE and HAPEN for the last couple of years in working on encouraging the APIU to participate in the County of Los Angeles Youth at Work program. And we're very proud to provide this partnership because we're really trying to build out the community to understand the resources that are available for the county. As we commemorate the 1992 riots, we should honor those who have worked to reach across racial lines and build coalitions and relationships, to learn about one another and live together as one community. We must bridge the language or culture gaps and work together to constantly fight for racial equality and not allow others to pit us against each other. I want to thank FACE and HAPEN for inviting me today to allow me to share my gratitude to her and the partners on this stage. Together we will work for equality, inclusion, and diversity. Thank you.
we're so honored that we have so many members of the City Council. I do want to acknowledge our council member, Nitya Raman, who joined us today. And also I'd like to invite right now Council Member Kevin De Leon to come and say a few words.
Thank you so very much. Good morning to each and every one of you. 안녕하세요. 저는 Kevin De Leon입니다. SAIGU 429, April 29th, 1992 will be cemented in American history as a pivotal day when generations of racial oppression and abuse against African Americans culminated here in our very own Los Angeles. But also on 429, SAIGU, April 29th, 1992, it would also be remembered historically for the Korean American community, just as well, perhaps even more so. The brutal video recording meeting of Rodney King at the hands of our very own 4 LAPD officers triggered the pain and anger and suffering faced by Black Americans across this nation. And it resulted in an explosive response that set our city ablaze. The victims of those days were widespread, but those who were forgotten were hundreds, if not thousands, of Korean Americans who suffered greatly. While our city has healed some wounds from those 3 decades, the truth is, it remains quite fractured. Just 2 years ago, our streets poured out in protest against the cruel and senseless killing of George Floyd, whose life was stripped away by a Minnesota police officer who knelt on Mr. Floyd's neck, despite his pleas that he couldn't breathe. We have witnessed countless acts of violence against Asian Americans, from the West Coast to the East Coast and points in between. We've also seen the video footage of helpless seniors, Asian Americans, Big Islanders pushed to the ground and kicked or blindsided in the face while attackers hurled racial epithets at them. And we know we've seen immigrants, day laborers be abused and be racially abused. Depending on how you view this, 429, whether folks view liquor stores or folks view it as mom and pop grocery stores, whether folks view it as assets that are being physically stripped away from communities of color, specifically African American communities, or folks view it through a different prism, of investments in neighborhoods that have been neglected for far too long. Mom and pop stores, or they couldn't get conventional loans from a bank, a traditional bank, where they had to actually raise cash from family members and actually go and invest in those communities. That's what FACE does. Let me say, these are the ongoing wounds that need to heal. These are the hard discussions that must continue if we ever want a mutual understanding of respect. And that's what FACE works to achieve, and why I stand in solidarity with HAPEN and with all the voices that bring us here together with our mayor. Regardless of who you are, regardless of where you come from, regardless of the color of your skin, which God you pray to, who you love, and yes, regardless of your legal status. Because every Angelina, regardless of where we live, deserves dignity and respect. But we cannot have that respect and dignity if we don't come together as one city, as one LA. It doesn't make a difference if your ancestry derives from the deep south, coming across the nation to the west coast, fleeing Jim Crow laws, seeking a better life, only to confront a different type of racism, perhaps maybe more covert as opposed to overt in the deep south. Or you're from Seoul, South Korea, or you're from India, or Mexico, or Central America. We're all Angelinos, and that is the beautiful tapestry, the wonderful mosaic of who we are, of so many different ethnicities and so many different hues. That's why I stand together with SAIGU here, member to member, shoulder to shoulder, as we recognize, as we commemorate the 30 years of this historic event that rocked the city of LA. When we come together as one, Korean Americans, African Americans, Latino Americans, Chinese Americans, Filipino Americans, Indian Americans, Persian Americans, all the beautiful tapestry of who we are as a great, beautiful city. Finally, we all know that we have lots of work to do. That's why APN has brought us here together. We're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to move forward and still continue to make those investments. So we don't pit one group against another or use one group because of the color of skin as a scapegoat. What historically has been the lack of investment in certain zip codes in the city of LA. We come together as one LA, as one city. Thank you very much. 감사합니다. Thank you.
We're almost to the finish line. With that, I'd like to invite James Cho, who is our former co-chair, to come and just say a quick word. And then we will close with some announcements with our current co-chair.
Hello everybody, my name is James Cho and we're going through this cycle. I graduated college, I was working actually in Oakland, California when I saw the fires burning. What was on my mind was actually my sister who lived with a friend in Rancho Palos Verdes, but actually commuted to Pasadena to go to college at Fuller Seminary. And I remember seeing the city burn and saying, what can we do? And I was young and didn't quite understand everything, the significance of it. But later I was watching my father, who was a pastor up in Oakland, California, and what he did was he partnered with the African American community, holding services both in Korean and in English, both at the African American church and at the Korean church, to create more dialogue. And I appreciate BPN for all our tireless effort to keep this, the SAIGU, to reflect and to join together so that we will not see this happen in the future again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite our current coach, board chair, Josh Ferguson, to share a little bit of some of the work that we're doing as part of this SAIGU campaign.
I appreciate it. Events like the LA riot shape who we are, what we think, and how we interact with everybody. Today you heard a lot of stories, first-hand accounts of how people in LA and around California felt through the events. Mine was a little bit different. I was in the Northwest. I really didn't know how much the Korean community was affected because it wasn't on our news. Quite frankly, I didn't even know about the small stories being heard because it wasn't on our news. But I've been able to share the stories with people and those around me and learn about what others went through to help me understand and connect with those that I might not otherwise be able to. At FACE, we're inviting everybody to share your story about the LA riot, what you saw, how you felt. Because we believe that if we share stories, we share experiences, we can connect and we can create peace through those experiences. So please come to our webpage, facela.org, share your experience so that we can share it with others. And as Angelinos, Southern Californians, we can all come together and during this event. Thank you.
Well, I think you said it perfectly. And so again, this Friday, we're having our Unity Interfaith Prayer Breakfast. For those of you, you are all welcome to join as well. And also the I Am Face of LA campaign, as well as we are accepting nominations for Heroes of Hope. And so again, please visit our website at www www.facela.org. I'd like to acknowledge also Commander Chief. Okay, Commander Jay Mastic, who is here representing the LAPD. Yes, we very much appreciate the good hard work that you do and for your whole team. Chief Blake Chow cannot join us. He was called to duty. We see also the former city attorney, wow, so thank you so much. District attorney, I'm so sorry. We look forward to having you join us. So again, thank you to each one of you. Please visit our website, www.facela.org. Thank you. God bless you.
I told you a story. You weren't here yet. I told you the story of you sweeping up. Yeah? Okay, come on. Come on, Daddy. Stand on the OGs and the original version. Take a picture of
didn't know if you wanted the shirt or not, or the picture. Okay. But I'll email you the photos. All right, thank you.
Voy a tratar de ser junto al poste. Lo voy a poner aquí. How are you? Please be right. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. Yeah, look at me. All right, stand by. We know who you are. But just for the record, for the editor, can you say your first and last name and spell it?
Najee Ali, N-A-J-E-E. Last name, Ali, A-L-I. Communications for Operation Hope.
Okay, don't give me Charlie. 30 years has passed of this subject. What the city has learned already? What the city learned already about it?
Well, it's important that the city of LA learns that no matter what happens anywhere in the parts of LA, we cannot take the law in our own hands. 30 years ago, we had the worst civil unrest in the history of the nation, one of the darkest days in our country. But 30 years later, we learned how to have unity and learn to have healing, come together as one LA.
What should we do, everybody, all of us, to make a change with our community, with our brothers, everybody? What should we do?
It's important that we support events